السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. والصلاة على رسول الله وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين وأصحابه المنتجبين. Dearest brothers and sisters, inshallah, just a quick reminder today as I'm joining you all, we're not formally having Friday prayer. The Jum'ah Salat with its ahkam and its formality is not being established. I think that was communicated. I know they made a mention of it last night, but to try to kind of preserve the form of our gathering on Friday for the daily prayer, inshallah, I'll present a short talk, kind of not replacing, but trying to fill at least the time that we spend reciting the sermons, and then from there we'll recite the Salaat Dhuhrain, inshallah. So with that, feel comfortable to inshallah follow along to listen. I'll try to keep it a little briefer than what you're accustomed to hearing, and inshallah we won't have two sermons. I'll just present a single short talk. So we're in the kind of period celebrating the Eid of Ghadir, Ayyam al-Ghadir. Last night we shared, for those of you who were participating, that in our tradition this is known as the Eid Allah al-Akbar, kind of like the grand Eid and the Eid of Eids. And I wanted to take a moment just for us to kind of review a bit and reflect on some of the ayat of Quran, but specifically that ayah that we know to be the ayah that captures the completion of the religion, and as it is revealed after the event of Ghadir takes place. So we know that to be the third ayah of Surah Al-Ma'idah. There are four major points that are outlined in trying to help us frame the importance of an event like Ghadir. So I'll read the ayah inshallah and we'll reflect on these 4 points. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. As you know, the ayah does not begin immediately going to the points pertinent to the event of Ghadir. We know that section of Al-Yawm Ya'isa alladhina kafaru min dinikum, but the ayah does not begin there. It's speaking of other issues before that. So I'll read the ayah in its entirety just to kind of emphasize that point. A lot of times we're accustomed to hearing portions of ayat, and we don't know that the ayah may actually be longer than that. It begins, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. حرمت عليكم الميتة والدم ولحم الخنزير وما أحل لغير الله به. That it has been made prohibited for you a number of different things: carrion, blood, the flesh of swine, and what has been offered to other than Allah. وَالْمُنْخَنِقَةُ وَالْمَوْقُوذَةُ وَالْمُتَرَدِّيَةُ وَالنَّطِيحَةُ وَمَا أَكَلَ السَّبْعُ إِلَّا مَا ذَكَّيْتُمْ. Also, in addition to that, animal that has been strangled or beaten to death, and that which dies by falling or is gored to death, and that which is mangled by beasts. All of these things, it's speaking about kind of ahkam of what can be consumed Islamically. وَمَا ذُهِبَ عَلَى النُّصُبِ وَإِن تَسْتَقْسِمُوهُ بِالْأَزْلَامِ ذَلِكَ فِسْقٌ. And also it says, barring those that you have purified them, and that what has been sacrificed on stone altars to idols, and that should divide by raffling with arrows. All of these things, Allah is saying that these are transgressions. Transgressions here means that they're not suitable and permissible to be consumed. So that's the portion relating to some of the ahkam that has come in the ayah. Now, the ayah then continues, and kind of between that then comes the issues pertinent to Ghadir. It says, Al-Yawm Ya'isa alladhina kafaru min dinikum. Today is the day that those who express kufr, that means those who have concealed the truth or are intentional in remaining in a relationship where the truth is concealed, they have now become despaired. They have become despaired against your religion. فَلَا تَخْشَوْهُمْ وَخْشَوْنِي. So fear them not, rather fear me. اليوم أكملت لكم دينكم وأتممت عليكم نعمتي وَرَضِيتُ لَكُمُ الْإِسْلَامَ دِينًا. It is on this day that I have perfected your religion for you, I have completed my blessing upon you, and I have chosen Islam as your religion. فَمَنِ اضْطُرَّ فِي مَخْمَصَةٍ غَيْرِ مُتَجَانِفٍ لِلْإِثْمِ فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. Should anyone be compelled by hunger without inclining to sin, then Allah is indeed all forgiving, all merciful. So there are points to be made about, kind of what can be consumed and what cannot be, and then the basic principle at the end of the ayah, which is also important, where when something is made a prohibition, should a person have no choice? There's really nothing else available to consume, and a person's life is in danger. Then, of course, you have a ruling that allows you to preserve kind of the more important sanctity of life, but with the qualifier that, of course, a person themselves is not inclined to sin. Sometimes there are permissions to do things that are under normal circumstances not allowed, but that does not mean that we can also change the intention and allow ourselves to accept that as an acceptable practice under normal conditions. But let's focus on those parts in the middle. As I mentioned, there are 4 things here that I think are important for us to appreciate when it comes to trying to frame this event of Ghadir in a way that kind of serves the purposes that the Quran is speaking of. This is not a conversation that is strictly historical. It is not a conversation that is strictly theological. It is a reflection on the Quran that serves as the guidance for all believing men and women. There's maybe a conversation about how to interpret, but the letter of the Quran remains unchanged. It remains a guiding light for all of those who are committed to its guidance. So, of course, what this ayah refers to, if you study the tafasir, there's a lot of different kind of instances that are brought up as being related to this ayah. And again, like I've said, there's more than we may even think. Speaking to the birth of the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, the day of Mab'ath, where the prophetic mission officially begins, the day of Indar, where the Prophet is instructed to publicly propagate those things, the migration that happens to Medina, so many of those kind of important events that we know from Islamic history. There have been references made here when scholars make reflections on them. But of course, of the most prominent is the 18th of Dhul Hijjah, which marks the day of Ghadir. The day of Ghadir, of course, is that event where the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, on the return from his final Hajj and pilgrimage, gathers the people there and makes this proclamation pertaining to the successorship after himself. Now, this ayah, as I mentioned, in those portions of it, highlights 4 things. And for us to kind of try to understand the significance of Ghadir and what it has to do with the religion as a whole, and for the Muslim community to kind of appreciate what's happening here, these are the 4 kind of basic principles that the ayah outlines. Number 1, it says, الْيَوْمْ يَئِسَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا مِنْ دِينِكُمْ. See, a lot of time people say, well, the ayah is speaking about what you should consume and what you should not consume, what you're allowed to consume, what you're not allowed to consume. Yes, let's say, hypothetically, it is the final revelation pertaining to certain ahkam, certain rules of practice. And because of that, once Allah closes that delivery of those rules, and yes, you may say it's complete now, and because of that, kuffar become يَئِسَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا, they despair against your religion. So that's a hypothesis and one to be kind of studied and seen if that's truly kind of what is intended here. But kind of bracketing that just for a moment. Think about your expressions, your experiences as Muslims. Do you feel that your choices, again, I'm not saying that this is what the ayah is particularly saying, but just a moment of reflection. Do you think kuffar, remember, kuffar are not those who don't believe. Kuffar are not those who are not Muslim. Kuffar means those who are active enemies of the revelation, active enemies of the truth. That's what it means. It does not mean someone who is non-Muslim. So someone who is intentional about rejecting and resisting, do you think those individuals would feel a sense of despair now that you've received revelation about prohibitions about certain consumptions of food? No, brother, it's a hukm, it's a law of God. So, of course, any law of God that Allah will reveal, they will not like it because they're true, fine. But again, be honest with yourself in the life that you're living. Right now, you go to your major supermarkets, what kind of meat are they selling you? They're selling you your halal meat for you and I, and we consume. You think if they were so intentional about making sure that you and I ate haram, why would they be offering halal meat? Right? There's a pretty penny to be made there, so they do it. Their allegiances are to those things. So whether you and I eat carrion or swine or an animal that has been mangled to death by another beast, like, are those things that are going to make kuffar despair of your religion? I would say probably not. What are those things that really evoke the fear in the heart of the kafir? Is it you praying 5 times a day? It may very well be, because it's your connection to God. Well, what about if it's a prayer that is detached from any sort of reflection and a social consciousness? No. They'll build the mosque for you. They'll call the adhan for you. Do you think it's your fasting during the month of Ramadan that's going to make the kuffar despair your religion? Quran says, كُتِبَ عَلَيْكُمُ الصِّيَامُ كَمَا كُتِبَ عَلَى الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ. Past nations, past religions have also had this. What is it that is making kuffar despair in your state of your religion now? Now again, like I said, this is a point to reflect on. But do you think it would support or it would reject kuffar being hopeful or despair when you have such a strong unit being developed and there is no plan for successorship? Yeah, this person may be a very influential individual, they've made a lot of change, but after them, there's no confidence that they'll be able to continue because they have no leadership model in place. Me as an individual who is invested in the destruction of my opponent and an opposing organization, I would love for them not to have a leadership structure in place. I would love for them to know what not their next steps are. I would love for them to believe that democratically the community as a whole can figure things out. I would love for them to do that because I know the story of human history. And the story of humanity has always been the ego and the arrogance of thinking that they can figure things out on their own. Oh, we got it now. We figured it out. No need for anything more. I would love nothing more than that. In the day of Jum'ah, in the khutbahs, there's supposed to be kind of like opportunities to reflect on what's happening in the world. Between yourselves and your God. You honestly believe right now agents of kuffar they despair the state of the Islamic community? I don't think so. So اليوم يأس الذين كفروا من دينكم. It's a really powerful statement that's being made then. But what exactly it's referring to is not so easy for a person to appreciate. So this kuffar does not fear the Quran as a book of laws. All religions, all ways of life have book of laws. That itself, in and of itself, is not a threat. They fear a Quran that is in action and one that the community holds firm to and is committed to practicing it in all of its instructions. So on the back of that it says, فَلَا تَخْشَوْهُمْ وَخْشَوْنِي. Do not have khashya of them, rather have khashya of me. One way of understanding khashya is it is a fear, but it's not just any type of fear. A lot of times we have fear of the unknown. We have fear of things that we don't have control over. But khashya is a fear that is derived out of knowledge that a person has. When a threat is posed, if I don't fully understand the threat, I may be afraid more so of the unknown than I do of the threat itself. What could happen? But once I know what the threat is, I may feel, well, I'm very capable of defending myself against this threat. I'm not really that concerned. So khashya is a fear that is derived from knowledge that a person has, and an action, and it leads itself to some sort of action. So when the ayah says that this is the day that the kuffar have despaired, so fear them not out of knowledge, out of an understanding. Rather, have khashya of me. I say this because a lot of times the efficacy of fear can be really in that ambiguity of what exactly is being leveled against an individual. Oh, no, 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 brother, sister, don't do this. Do you know what the consequences of this action are? No, 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 no. So you're afraid of a boogeyman that you don't fully understand. The big bad person is going to come and get you. Be afraid. Be silent. Don't attract attention to yourself. Don't say what needs to be said. Don't do what needs to be done. Put your head down and live your own life. It's not the prophetic message, though. That's not the prophetic mission, though. يا أيها الذين آمنوا كونوا قوامين بالقسط شهداء. Be those who establish the pillars of truth. Be a witness. Now, if a person fears something and that fear conflicts with them in their ability to live their life out as a Muslim, what should they do? Allah says, don't have khashya of them. Khashya means, first of all, if you have a fear, try and resolve the fear by understanding what are the terms of the threat. Understand. Imagine an army is being marched to war and they don't know how many opponents stand before them. They don't know what technologies they have, what sort of armament, what sort of weaponry they have that stands against them. The person says, I have, whatever, I don't want to, maybe that's not a great example in this climate. But you're standing before another group that is an enemy of yours, that is an opponent of yours, without you understanding what they are truly capable of. This is not khashya. So Allah, the first stage is asking the Muslim community, clarify. Do you have truly a warranted reason to have the fear in your heart the way that it currently exists right now? That's the first thing. And time again, the Prophet's role was to try and settle some of these, you call them natural fears that arise of what? Of losing the precious worldly possessions. The Prophet will coach the people, don't make a bigger deal than what it is. Generally, those who are weaker in faith, they make a bigger deal out of things truly are, not because they know what it is. It's because they've created a concoction in their mind, and not only does it overtake them, but they use that as an opportunity to instill fear in the hearts of other people. That's why those individuals should not be in positions of influence and leadership. Cowards should not be in positions of leadership and influence. So that's number one. Now, after you figure out truly what is at stake, what is the threat, what is the impact, what are the implications, now having known that, don't have khashya of them. I'm going to lose this, I'm going to lose that, they're going to do this, they're going to do that. Okay. Taking that for granted now, despite that, don't have fear of them. Have khashya of God. Whatever it is that you're going to experience in your life, Allah is there to help you navigate that. Imagine if the cowards and the fearful ones were next to the Prophet the whole time. Don't say anything. Shh. We're going to get in trouble. Right? Early Muslims, the reason why the Prophet was inviting them privately is because he wanted to make sure that these sort of people were not there from the beginning. Those of them who were strong in their convictions, they stood up. And I'm not saying that this is a metric for success, but they took the beatings. They took the beatings. Bravely they would stand and say what needs to be said. And sometimes it was met with silence. Sometimes it was met with ridicule. Sometimes it was met with physical retaliation. Those people found solace in choosing the khashya of God over the khashya of their opponents. So in celebrating this day of Ghadir, I mean, a lot of times a person like myself says, how ignorant were those people? Imam Ali was there, but they chose something else. Oh, let's slow down a little bit. You, not you, I myself, I'm failing much simpler tests in my life. I'm afraid to say and do certain things because I fear not that I'm going to lose my income, I'm going to lose my bonus. I better not say anything. So choose the khashya of Allah over the khashya of others. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran says, الَّذِينَ يُبَلِّغُونَ رِسَالَاتِ اللَّهِ. The way of God is the one that regarding those who deliver the message of Allah. وَيَخْشَوْنَهُ. And they fear, they have a khashya of God. وَلَا يَخْشَوْنَ أَحَدًا إِلَّا اللَّهِ. They have khashya of none other than God. وَكَفَى بِاللَّهِ حَسِيبًا. Sufficient is God as their reckoner. So that's the first two parts. اليوم يئس الذين كفروا من دينكم فلا تخشوهم واخشوني. اليوم أكملت لكم دينكم وأتممت عليكم نعمتي. This is the day that your religion has been perfected and my blessing upon you has been completed. When does a blessing become complete? When does a religion become perfect? Ni'mah, a blessing is truly appreciated when a person is able to utilize it in a way that it's intended to be used. Right? A knife is meant to cut your food, cut your fruit. It's not meant to stab another person with it. So if you're given the blessing of hadid, to use it the right way. But if a person uses that in a wrong way, then of course that is not appreciation of a blessing becoming complete. Even if Allah continues to give blessing upon blessing upon blessing upon blessing, the person will never be able to utilize it correctly because they're unable or unwilling to utilize it in its correct way. Another point to reflect on is Allah has made this declaration. It's not like you and I have looked at it and says, oh, this is enough. I think I have everything I need. Allah is saying, you have everything you need. For a person who is truly looking for this worldly guidance and otherworldly success, then all of the foundations are there. A lot of times, a person like myself, again, will try and complain or justify my poor performance because if I only had more, if the conditions were only different, if the circumstances had only changed, if some of the obstacles had only been removed, Allah's saying it's all there. All of the things that we can think of as excuses, we have a history, we have a tradition that has already shown others who have experienced that and how they have succeeded and maybe how others have failed. They serve as a lesson for us, an ibrah for us. If a person is going to look the other way, if a person is going to ignore it, a person is going to neglect it, then of course they feel like only their experience is the experience that has ever occurred. For them, their experience is unique, it is special, it is different. So it requires something new too. No. اليوم أكملت لكم دينكم وأتممت عليكم نعمتي. So what good is a completed religion, a perfected religion, and a completed blessing if we're not looking at it that way and we're not going to use it in a way that it's intended to do? Ghadir could happen every year, and yet if the receiver is not capable or is not ready, then it can happen over and over and over again. And finally, it says, this is an Islam that pleases Allah. A lot of us, some of us may be concerned more so with an Islam that pleases us, or living in Islam that pleases us. We learn about a responsibility that we have when we say, you know what, this doesn't apply to me because of X, Y, and Z reason. We need to do something in a certain moment, and we say, you know what, the time is not right now because of A, B, and C reason. But is that an Islam that pleases God, or is that an Islam that pleases us? وَرَضِيتُ لَكُمُ الْإِسْلَامَ دِينًا. No. Right now is not the time for designation of a leader and successor. Let us first gather around and discuss it. These are all reactive measures to already a plan of action that has been dictated to us by God. Whenever we unnecessarily, unjustifiably, kind of using the language that I did yesterday, call audibles, when God has already called the play, we're only going to lose. We're only going to lose. And no doubt the Muslim community suffered a great loss in learning this lesson the hard way. And what lesson is the Muslim community learning now about this continued form of communal organization and leadership structure? As much as we tell ourselves unity, 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 togetherness, brotherhood, sisterhood, as much as we say these things, let's look in our heart of hearts and have a fair evaluation. Is that truly where we are? If that's true, then it should follow certain outcomes, certain results, certain accomplishments. When those are not there, then a person has to problem solve. A person has to be critical. And finally, for those of us who are inclined to say, it's okay, Allah has already planned here. He's going to send the final imam that is going to come and create peace and justice on this earth. The hujjah that is established in all traditions, regardless of theological and legal denominations. We are waiting for him to come. Again, is that the correct outlook and the correct perspective at this time? To just wait passively? Allah will do what He wants. No, of course not. Of course not. It's about taking an active role in finding an Islam that is pleasurable to God. وَدَّ كَثِيرٌ مِّنْ أَهْلِ الْكِتَابِ لَوْ يَرُدُّونَكُم مِّن بَعْدِ إِيمَانِكُمْ كُفَّارًا حَسَدًا مِّنْ عِندِ أَنفُسِهِمْ مِّن بَعْدِ مَا تَبَيَّنَ لَهُمُ الْحَقُّ. Beyond other peoples, even the Quran is telling us there's a group, even of the people of the book, that they've received already some truth and some guidance. They are eager to turn you into kuffar, transform your iman into kuffar, after your faith, out of an inner envy that exists in them, and after truth has become manifest to them. This is the Quran being very clear to you and to I. The world that you live in is a world that includes individuals who are committed to transforming, evolving whatever semblance of iman that you and I have into a type of a kufr. All of the struggles that we see in larger societies, some of the things that we were previously negligent of, and now it's, we're bearing the fruit of that. These are all the same things. They're all talking about the same things. Just because you and I are not aware, it doesn't mean it's not happening. فَعْفُوا وَاصْفَحُوا حَتَّى يَأْتِيَ اللَّهُ بِأَمْرِهِ. Excuse and forbear until Allah issues His edict. إِنَّ اللَّهَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ. Indeed, Allah is capable and has power over all things. So this Yawmul Ghadir is really an opportunity for us to once again, we haven't already, once again, recalibrate, to have a quick audit and assessment of where we are, what we need to be doing, where our successes are, where our failures are, but as it is drawn towards these basic principles outlined in the ayah. That how can we actually have a relationship with our religion and with each other that satisfies. Alaykum salam. اليوم يئس الذين كفروا من دينكم. 2. فلا تخشوهم واخشوني. 3. اليوم أكملت لكم دينكم وأتممت عليكم نعمتي. And 4th, ورضيت لكم الإسلام دينا. These things are timeless. They extend from that time until now. And unless we're waiting for something more and something new, this is how Allah decides to deal with us, because we have been given the tools to succeed. It is upon us to use them correctly. وَقَوْلُ الْحَمْدُ لِلَّهِ الَّذِي هَدَانَا لِهَذَا وَمَا كُنَّا لِنَهْتَدِيَ لَوْلَا أَنْ هَدَانَ اللَّهُ لَقَدْ جَاءَتْ رُسُلُ رَبِّنَا بِالْحَقِّ. And they will say, those who have truly appreciated an event like this, all praise belongs to Allah who has guided us to this. We would have never been guided had God not guided us to it. The messengers of God had certainly brought the truth to us. Inshallah, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us of those who continue to hold firm to the guidance that He has provided to us in the Quran, and through the practice of the Quran and the example of the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, and his purified progeny, the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, inshallah. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Inshallah, we'll move now to the Salaat, if we can organize the lines. As I mentioned earlier, those who were joined us a little later, I'm traveling, so my prayers will be shortened. After I recite the tashahhud in the second rak'ah, you all can continue your dhuhr prayers, inshallah. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله وأن عليًا حجة الله. حي على الصلاة، حي على الصلاة، حي على الفلاح، حي على الفلاح، حي على خير العمل، حي على خير العمل. قد قامت الصلاة، قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر، الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. سبحان الله، سبحان الله، سبحان الله. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. سبحان الله، سبحان الله، سبحان الله. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. سبحان الله، سبحان الله، سبحان الله. الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. كذلك الله ربنا. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. سبحان الله، سبحان الله، سبحان الله. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. سبحان الله، سبحان الله، سبحان الله. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. سبحان الله، سبحان الله، سبحان الله. الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدًا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله أكبر، الله أكبر، الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. لا إله إلا الله العظيم الحليم. لا إله إلا الله رب العرش الكريم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. اللهم إني أسألك موجبات رحمتك وعزائم مغفرتك والغنيمة من كل بر والسلامة من كل إثم. اللهم لا تدع لي ذنبا إلا غفرته، ولا هما إلا فرجته، ولا سقما إلا شفيته، ولا عيبا إلا سترته، ولا رزقا إلا بسطته، ولا خوفا إلا آمنته، ولا سوءا إلا صرفته، ولا حاجة هي لك رضا ولي فيها صلاح إلا قضيتها يا أرحم الراحمين. آمين يا رب العالمين. صلوات. Inshallah, we'll be reciting Asr prayer. As a reminder, I'm traveling, so it will be a shortened prayer for me. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, wa anna Aliyan Hujjatullah. حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سبحان الله. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده سبحان الله. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده سبحان الله. الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الله أكبر. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا أو أخطأنا. ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إسرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا. ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به. واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا. أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. رب صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم الرحمن الرحيم ذو الجلال والإكرام، وأسأله أن يتوب علي توبة عبد ذليل خاضع فقير بائس مسكين مستكين مستجير لا يملك لنفسه نفعا ولا ضرا ولا موتا ولا حياة ولا نشورا. اللهم إني أعوذ بك من نفس لا تشبع، ومن قلب لا يخشع، ومن علم لا ينفع، ومن صلاة لا ترفع، ومن دعاء لا يسمع. اللهم إني أسألك اليسر بعد العسر، والفرج بعد الكرب، والرخاء بعد الشدة. اللهم ما بنا من نعمة فمنك، لا إله إلا أنت، أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. وصلى الله على نبينا محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين.
زيارة المعصومين. السلام عليك يا رسول الله، السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين، السلام عليك يا فاطمة سيدة نساء العالمين، السلام عليك يا حسن بن علي المجتبى، السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله الشهيد بكربلاء، وعلى شهداء كربلاء خصوصا سيدي ومولاي أبا الفضل العباس وأختك زينب. السلام عليك يا علي بن الحسين زين العابدين، السلام عليك يا محمد بن علي الباقر، السلام عليك يا جعفر بن محمد الصادق، السلام عليك يا موسى بن جعفر الكاظم، السلام عليك يا علي بن موسى الرضا، السلام عليك يا محمد بن علي الجواد، السلام عليك يا علي بن محمد الهادي، السلام عليك يا حسن بن علي العسكري، السلام عليك يا صاحب العصر والزمان، الأمان 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 من فتن الزمان، السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن، يا كعبة الإيمان ويا إمام الإنس والجن،